Hello and welcome everyone. I am going to be doing another journal review today, or paper review. And that is with this journal from Danika58 once again. This is the Tora Next paper, I think. Honestly, I can't tell if that is an H or an N. But here are all the stats. You can see it's a little bit heavier of a weight of paper. This particular journal has 384 pages and is with the dot grid and soft cover. Now, of the 4 journals that she sent to me, this one probably has me the most tempted to use. I feel there is something about the thickness, I think, of this journal and just the way it feels to hold in the hand. It's a really tactile experience. It's heavy, it's chunky, and I find myself very drawn to it. I also really like the color of this cover in particular. I do prefer lined paper over dot grid though, but you know, the dots are really subtle, that they just play as more a guide, a tiny hint of a guide, which I do appreciate, because some papers are printed with really intense lines or dots, and it gets a little bit distracting. So I do appreciate that part of it. I will be using primarily this Pelikan 400 from the 1950s that is inked with Waterman's Serenity Blue. And I think as far as the writing goes, I'm just going to write the most random things ever. I really enjoy the binding of this book and how just any page can lay flat. Knowing that this was also hand-stitched just brings a bit of life into the journal. I'm actually very inspired to write on this paper. It's smooth and a little bit, it's heavy like Leuchtturm, but just a hair smoother. The Leuchtturm paper has a bit more tooth to it, in my opinion. I suppose since in the last video we had the baby of Tomoe River paper and onion skin paper, I feel like this is the baby of Clairefontaine or Rhodia and Leuchtturm journal. It's somewhere in between. One of the things that does bother me a little bit about this paper is that all of my lines, even on my finest of pens, look a little bit thicker. And I don't know what that is about. I've experienced that with other papers before. With Nemesine, for example, which is a coated paper, all of my fatter nibs look considerably thinner, which is kind of nice. But on this paper, it's the opposite, where they seem to thicken up. And it's not that the paper is sucking up the ink and feathering out. It doesn't feather at all. In fact, it shows really nice shading. And this particular blue ink, which is the Waterman's Serenity Blue, isn't an ink that I really find necessarily to be a shading ink. I would never put it in that category, but on this paper it does that, and I love shading. I think it's just so beautiful. But it is interesting to me that the lines seem to fatten up a bit. There is a little bit of ghosting. In other words, when you turn the page, you can see just the faintest amount of what you had written on the prior page. That's really a matter of personal opinion. I personally really enjoy that. This paper I've experimented with with a couple of other inks now, and I feel like it can handle any ink I throw at it. It's definitely a really fountain pen friendly paper, and a very fountain pen ink friendly paper. I like that it tends to enhance the shading of inks. And the sound it makes with pen on paper is definitely a smoother sound. There isn't a whole lot of feedback from this paper, even with pens that tend to have more feedback, make more sound as they write. This one's pretty subtle and soft. The thickness of this journal definitely feels a little bit awkward as you approach the bottom of the page, but when one finds a journal inspiring, one is willing to make all sorts of sacrifices in terms of comfort. And that's it. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.